You're listening to the Night Demon Network. Go to nightdemon.net/subscriber to unlock more exclusive content.
Hello and welcome to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. I'm your host Nesbitt, and today we're going to dive back into the Heavy Metal Mixtape. So if you missed the first 3 parts, I suggest going back and listening, but just in case some of you are tuning in for the first time, the Heavy Metal Mixtape is a compilation compiled by Night Demon and released on October 2015 on cassette. It's got a bunch of kick-ass metal bands, metal tracks. We've been going through the bands and the tracks in order. Today we're going to dig into side B. So this is Heavy Metal Mixtape. So I've been basically listening to these bands from this mixtape nonstop now for the last few weeks, kind of digging into their discographies. Man, we should all realize that we're living in this like golden age of music where you can listen to basically anything you want on demand. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. It's kind of overwhelming too. There's like so much music out there and you can put your hands on it at the drop of a hat. That's why these compilations are even more useful in today's age. I think it's a good starting point, give you some direction to get into some new bands, some new albums. I've been listening to Hyrax, the newest Raven album. I think I finally clicked with Midnight too. They have a song called Sounds of Hell, which I love, and that's kind of been my entry point into getting into their album. It's pretty cool that a cassette tape can unlock all this amazing music and just kind of open your eyes to it. So releasing a cassette tape compilation, 2015, pretty cool idea. And I was kind of wondering though, in 2015, like in today's day and age, how exactly do you put out a cassette tape? Here's Jarvis.
So on October 31st, 2015, we actually had the tapes in hand. It was limited to 666 hand-numbered copies. We made them through a company called NAC, National Audio Company. At the time, they were the only cassette manufacturer in the United States, and they had a crazy boom that year. I think it was maybe 2015 or 2016. I think they manufactured 20 million cassettes that year. But I mean, the format had just come back, and these people hung tough. I mean, there was no other manufacturer in the whole nation. It was crazy. These guys, they just weathered the storm. So they probably had a decade or two of just barely hanging on, but they stuck to their guns and what they did and really changed the game. And at a certain point, they were doing so much volume that they had to expand, and they had to hire full-time technicians to service and work on these machines, these duplicators and cassette replicators, because, the manufacturers who made these machines back in the day, they were either out of business or these machines were just obsolete by decades. And so the parts weren't even able to be sourced or bought anywhere. A lot of the stuff, I'm sure some of them were, but there was stuff that they just couldn't get, stuff that was not made anymore because the medium was pretty much dead. So they had to hire full-time technicians to fabricate parts when something would break down on a machine or stuff like that. So I don't know, it's just inspiring. I give it up to companies like that really stick to their guns and hold to. Some may see it as stupid because, the unwillingness to adapt with technology or whatever. But, I don't see it that way. I see it that if you're really passionate about something and you stick with it, it's kind of like being in a band. There has been so many bands that have slugged it out for years and have had no success, and then they break up right before they're probably about to break. We've seen it time and time again. And then you see bands that just stick around forever, and the consistency is what gets them there. And one day somebody talks about them in major press, or they have a documentary film made about them, or there's a new generation of fans that comes around and champions them. So there's something to be said about consistency and about just, if you're passionate about something, just going for it and sticking with it no matter what. You do it because you love doing it, not because of outside results. And eventually, when you become the best at it, or in this case, when you become the only one left, there's no other choice but for the public and for the masses to just arrive at your doorstep. So that's the kind of brief story about NAC. And I remember when these tapes showed up, it also came with a plaque. It was really awesome. Like, they had made an extra copy of the tape and had mounted it on this plaque, and it was gold-plated. Heavy Metal Mixtape, Night Demon Records, the catalog number NDR-001, limited to 666 numbered copies. I mean, it was just really cool. It was almost like getting a gold record or something. I just thought that was a really cool touch, and that was a really cool thing about this company. And it's just great talking about it. It brings back a lot of memories about, just having something like that in your hands before you release this to the public.
So there you go. Our, cassette's going to make a comeback. I think they kind of are in a way, but I think it's kind of a nostalgia thing at this point. But I listen to tapes pretty often, and I mean, it's a lot more fun. Like, to me, that's the appeal. It's fun. It's a novelty, yeah, but it's just fun. So maybe the sound isn't as good as digital medium, but it's a lot more fun than streaming some playlist, which I also do, but I don't know, something about physical media. It's just cool having a few shelves of cassettes and flipping through them, turn them over in your hands, and, I don't know, it's more fun. And that's the appeal for me. Anyway, let's get into the tunes. So we went through side A. We have one track left on side A. So to finish off side A of the Heavy Metal Mixtape is Steel Prophet, Trickery of the Scourge. Cool track. The bass line in that track's pretty cool. So formed in 1984 by Steve Kaczynski, who has been the driving force behind Steel Prophet right up until today. So they started in Connecticut and moved to California in 87. So here's founding member of Steel Prophet, Steve Kaczynski.
I'm Steve Kaczynski from Steel Prophet. I guess we were a band that kind of got started in the late 80s. And we had a little bit of success in the LA scene, like opening for bigger bands like Fate's Warning or Saxon, Armored Saint, different bands like that would come to town. And Candlemass, Trouble, stuff like that. But when the late 80s scene died in Los Angeles, we were just not even doing any albums or anything like that. We didn't actually get an album out until the mid-90s, which was, of course, a bad time for that, seeing as that was when Nirvana and bands like that were starting to take over. But there was a few bands like us. There was, Steel Prophet was with Nuclear Blast. Hammerfall kind of came out doing traditional heavy metal, and then there was like Iced Earth and Nevermore, and that was a lot of it. One thing that we're getting popular for was that we sort of had a Iron Maiden-ish vibe, and Iron Maiden had Blaze Bayley at the time, and so the fans were not that excited with Iron Maiden for a couple of years, and we kind of filled that void with kind of mixing more of like thrash, and we had blast beats and stuff like that. And it was very progressive, but there was a lot of like traditional metal and Maiden in it.
So Night Demon gets another killer legendary California metal band for the Heavy Metal Mixtape. This is the opening track from their 2014 album Omniscient. So again, we have a legendary band with a new era song on this heavy metal compilation.
Well, I kind of feel like they can be pretty cool if it introduces you to a genre you're unfamiliar with, and you get to sample stuff that's curated by someone else, and you don't really need to go and do all the legwork yourself because it's all done for you. And if it's a really good tape, then it's great. The problem is when you get a tape that doesn't really kind of meet up with your standards and your expectations. In the case of this tape, I feel like it was like a really good compilation. Like some of my favorites is like probably Venomous Maximus and Night Demon. And there's a lot of bands that I think are really good.
Steel Prophet, these guys are Southern California legends. I became friends with Steve Kaczynski, their leader of that band. I can't remember how we met. Now that I think about it, I just can't. But somehow we ended up having them come to play a show with us in Ventura. And that's where we met Lloyd Grant, the original lead guitar player of Metallica. He actually played lead guitar on Hit the Lights, the first version on the Metal Massacre comp. So the very first Metallica song I ever heard. And that's how we met Lloyd, and that's how Lloyd came to play live with Night Demon, which we'll cover in one of the early days episodes.
So sort of a side tangent here, but in 82, Metallica put out a demo on the first pressing of the Metal Massacre compilation, which is pretty legendary. a pre-Dave Mustaine, pre-Ron McGovney version of Metallica with James Hetfield, Lars, and Lloyd Grant. So Lloyd Grant plays guitar on the first released recording of Metallica, and also ended up playing with Night Demon on August 4th, 2014. So that's just a very short, small clip. We'll be getting into that in a lot more depth in future episodes, and how Steel Prophet and Steve Kaczynski ties into all this. Those episodes are already in the works, but here's Jarvis again.
But yeah, Steve had come out with Steel Prophet, and it was just cool. A lot of people in the Ventura, well, there's not much of a metal scene in Ventura, but the people that know it, and the people that come from LA to Ventura when we play, they were really excited, and it was a really good bill. Steel Prophet also played the first Frost and Fire, and actually Neil Turbin, the original singer of Anthrax from Fistful of Metal, ended up singing for them, which was a really cool treat.
You know, Jarvis and the guys, they put together the festival, and they had a lot of really great bands come from all over, and a lot of them are represented on this tape.
So, you know, I just really can't remember how I met Steve, but we became friends, and we would go to concerts together. One time he invited me to go see King Diamond in LA, and that was a really fun night. But, you know, again, anytime you can have a legendary band on a comp like this, it works, especially with a current song. And again, that's one theme that I haven't really touched on when you talk about bands like Raven, Riot 5, Hyrax, and now Steel Prophet. There's more coming on side B, but up until this point on side A, we've got legendary metal bands, legendary influential bands with new tracks for the new era. And that's what was really cool. I was really proud that we were able to meld the two. It wasn't just like, hey, here's the new kids on the block. It was like, let's see what the old guys, what the originators can do now. And I think each and every one of them put their best foot forward, and quite honestly, really did take us all to school once again.
Technology
The song that we contributed was called Trickery of the Scourge. It's from our 2014 Omniscient album. And actually, when we did that record release, I contacted Jarvis to see if Night Demon might want to open up for us when we did our record release party. And I think they already had a gig in Ventura, and they just asked me if we'd want to do just put our record release party in with that gig. It was at the Bombay, which is where Frost and Fire was, So that was pretty cool. So we did the record release party there, and we had a great time. Anyways, yeah, Trickery of the Scourge was it's just a straight ahead Steel Prophet song. There's a lot of guitar overdubs and harmonies, and it's kind of like a sci-fi theme about man kind of ruining the world and being a disease upon the world. That kind of concept, which I'm sure everybody's seen in hundreds of movies. But that was our track, and it was hard to decide whether to use that track or a different track. I kind of thought the Tree of Knowledge was a good track. But in the end, I asked Jarvis what he thought would be a good song to put on it. And, I basically gave him a choice of a couple tracks. And that was the one that he preferred. And I thought, yeah, this is kind of it's the opening track on our album. It's probably one of the best tracks on the album. So that's what we did.
So that's a track that ends side A of the Heavy Metal Mixtape. So now on to side B.
On October 31st, 2015, Night Demon released Heavy Metal Mixtape. This collection of underground heavy metal was released on 666 hand-numbered limited edition cassettes. It sold out in nearly a week. Since then, many people have scoured the internet and paid insane prices to get a copy of this tape. Now in 2021, it is near impossible to find a copy new or used of Heavy Metal Mixtape. Until now. Night Demon has opened the vault and released a handful of original factory-sealed Heavy Metal Mixtapes. These are available for subscribers only. For those of you who are late to the game, head over to nightdemon.net/subscriber. Sign up and head over to the subscriber-only store to get your copy of Heavy Metal Mixtape while they still left.
So we start off side B of the Heavy Metal Mixtape with another sample.
Side B. So we start this one off with a sample. This is a James Hetfield Station ID. This is something that I actually found on an old compilation. I used to buy these compilation bootleg CDs all the time at record stores. And man, back in the day, pre-internet, these things were expensive. You're talking $30 to $40 for a CD. You have no idea what's on it, what the quality is. But this is the only way you could get this stuff. And in, early 90s or mid 90s wages and being a broke kid, you really kind of, when you made those decisions, it was heavy. So, I bought the CD. It's called Metallica, The Thing That Should Not Be. And it was basically a compilation of just like mistakes and stuff. Like they had the original, many people might not know this, but the original Jump in the Fire single has a couple live tracks on there, but they're not really live. Metallica just recorded them live in a studio, and they added the crowd noises later. But back in the day, in the UK, you know, the BBC required a single every 6 weeks, basically, to keep your album going, and Metallica didn't have any new material, and they weren't going to make a single just for that, so they would do things like this. And so this version basically, it was the same recording, but without the crowd noises. So James just kind of in here in the studio like I am, just going like, all right, come on. You know, it's a pretty funny thing. So just for that reason alone, I wanted to get it. But what it did have on there is like things like this, like the station ID. And so I didn't know till many years later. I don't know why I dusted this thing off again and listened to it. But I mean, it's just really weird to think about it, because we were on tour basically most of 2015. I think it might have been after the Curse of the Damned leg in the US when we had come home and really put this compilation together. I think I might have just gone through my CDs to look for stuff. And I don't know why, in my thousands of CDs, literally thousands, I pulled this one out. And I heard the station ID, and it was James Hetfield giving a station ID for the one and only Bill Peters. And it's just crazy because we had been on this whole journey with Bill, and up until this point, he was really championing the band. And to hear this, it just totally blew my mind. This is something I'd probably heard so many times in my youth. Maybe his name was familiar. Maybe it was some kind of magic behind it, some kind of foreshadowing, something that brought us together. Who knows? But it was just, man, it was just so crazy to hear it. And I believe, Bill's been a DJ at WJCU with his Metal on Metal show for almost 40 years now, consecutive, running every Friday night. I believe on this, James Hetfield says it's not WJCU, it's WCJU or something. He gets the letters mixed up. And so I told Bill about it, and he's like, oh, he laughed, and he's like, oh, no, actually, that was the station at the time. They had changed the call letters through the years. So this is actually accurate, whatever James does say on here. But I thought this was very fitting to start off side B. And I will say this going into the next song, going into the first song of side B.
This is James Hetfield from the band Metallica, and you're listening to Bill Peters on the Metal on Metal show, WUJC 88.7. Yeah!
So we come out of that sample into the first track on side A from Cleveland, Black Death, Resurrected. Some pretty cool lyrics in this one. Back in black, I ride again across the barren plains, bringing swift metal justice to every town that we take. So Black Death formed in 1977 in Cleveland, Ohio. And they had 2 tracks on the Cleveland Metal compilation in 1983, which we talked about in the Live Darkness episodes. That compilation had Shock Paris and Breaker, who both opened for Night Demon at the Live Darkness show in Cleveland, where the live album was recorded. Black Death, they also had a self-titled album released in 1984, just called Black Death. Now, as Black Death Resurrected, they have a full length out. The album is called The Return of the Iron Messiah. So this track that we just heard is the title track from that album. Also interesting, the release date for that album, October 31st, 2015. The same release date for this compilation, the Heavy Metal Mixtape. So here's Sicky Spacek of Black Death.
Good evening, mates. It's evening for you, morning for me. Greetings to the congregations of heavy metal in all its various chapters worldwide across the flat earth. Anyways, my name is Sicky Spacek, mates. Also known affectionately as Paul Mandrake, our intrepid hero on Facebook. That song I wrote, that was about, it was a double thing, actually. It was about the second coming. The second coming of our Savior, Yahushua. And it was also a personal song I was writing about myself insofar as my return back in black, riding across the barren plains. Me and my mates, playing power-pounding, bone-crunching, mind-bending, exclusive, unique, Black Death heavy metal. That's right, there's nothing like Black Death heavy metal. So anyways, the song Return of the Iron Messiah, which you could also say is like a part 2 of Screaming Iron Messiah. So one is played in B and the other was in E. Anyways and stuff, that's what the song's about. Mostly all of my songs have some type of scriptural inspiration to it, or biblical, shall we say, prophecies and all of that. I'll just leave it to you to read the lyrics and decipher that shit for yourself. But anyways, bottom line, I never was into that Kiss mentality of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, writing songs about that. I find that kind of boring. Music is a very special, powerful thing. You have to be, when you got to use that platform, you want to deliver the right message. You want to send the right signals and shit, So, no, Black Death. We don't sing about rocking and rolling all night and drinking and drugging and partying all every day. And we don't worship the devil and stuff. I'll put my foot on his bloody neck. Remember, he'll bruise the heel, but we'll crush his head.
So, yeah, this song, The Return of the Iron Messiah, is the follow-up to the track from their 1984 album called The Scream of the Iron Messiah. So they have The Scream of the Iron Messiah in 1984 as Black Death, and then they have The Return of the Iron Messiah as Black Death Resurrected. So this track is a callback to that earlier track, and it's the first track and the title track from their 2015 album, The Return of the Iron Messiah.
Back in black, I rise again across the barren plains, bringing swift metal justice in every town that we take. I can still hear them laughing. I can still hear their cries. Oh, God, metal, when will you rise again? We'll make you bleed. We'll make you scream. We'll make you bleed. We'll make hear the puppy. I can still hear that cry. Oh, God of metal, when will you rise again? He'll make you bleed. He'll make you scream. We'll make you bleed. He'll make you scream.
Black Death. Okay. So there's a very popular documentary that's been out for a few years about a punk rock band of all black musicians from Detroit called Death. And I think they had made a 7-inch single or something. I can't quite remember, but the story is that this band had been undiscovered for decades, but they were really fucking good. And they were a punk rock band of all African-American musicians. And, you know, at that time, coming out of even the MC5 era, I think they might have started even in the late 60s or early 70s, but it was just unheard of culturally. And I think like the fact that because of their race, it made for an even more interesting story because you didn't really see a bunch of all black musicians playing that style of music. And so a lot of people discovered this band after the fact, decades later, and were really turned on by the band because they were so good. But one band that really deserves credit on the same line is Black Death. And Black Death was a band of all black musicians from Cleveland, Ohio in the 80s. They put out their debut record in the mid-80s on Bill Peters' own Auburn Records. So I got turned on to Black Death from Brent and from Pat Bailey, the other two guys in the first lineup of Night Demon. And they were showing me stuff like on YouTube, and I was like, man, this is insane. This is intense. And just seeing, there was like a very famous, well, in the underground, a famous like promo photo, like an 8x10 glossy of the band, and to see how they looked. And it was just amazing. And the music was incredible. So, you know, fast forward, we end up meeting these guys, and we had no idea that we were ever even going to play in Cleveland or that anything was going to happen for us there. But Black Death ended up opening for us at that January of 2015 at the Maple Grove in Cleveland, the night of the famous blizzard. But they had changed their name to Black Death Resurrected because the band had reformed after so many years. But just meeting Sicky, I mean, the lead singer and guitar player of the band, I mean, he is just such a fucking character. I mean, he's crazy. He's a true living legend. But Black Death and Black Death Resurrected here, I think really deserves a spotlight. And I hope that they make a documentary film about this band because it'll be very interesting. I do want to say a rest in peace for the guitar player, Vincent Lindsay, who was a guitar player for Black Death. And I mean, what a fantastic guy. He was so kind. He was one of the coolest guys to hang with. Every time we went to Cleveland, he was such a really, really nice guy, always warm and welcoming. It's really sad to hear about his passing. He had cancer, and I remember the last time I saw him when we came through, I asked him how his health was, and he just played it off like nothing. I mean, he really never showed that he was in bad shape, and he never asked for pity or sympathy or anything, and he actually did look pretty good. And I'm just glad that he got to play in the band again, and he got to go out doing what he loved. But this song, The Return of the Iron Messiah, is Black Death Resurrected with their comeback record. And this track starts off side B, and side B starts with the James Hetfield intro of introducing Bill Peters, who discovered Black Death and championed them in the 80s. So it's totally appropriate, and I'm glad that we can bring something back and do something for Bill and for Black Death to repay them for everything that they've done for Night Demon.
So we heard from Siki Spacek of Black Death about the track, but he has a lot more to say, so here again is Siki Spacek of Black Death.
All right, the band is doing great. It took a minute, but patience is virtue, and patience is its own reward. Good things come to he who waits but practices in the meantime. So what's going on now with the band and stuff? I got some new members. I got a couple of mates with me now from a band called Fistula. I have Mr. Captain Corey Binghamton on drums, and on bass, Captain Bob Branca. You know, excellent lads. Excellent lads. You know, straight edge too, like that. But anyways, right now, we're working on some new material for the next Black Death record, tentatively called Breaking the Chains of Hell. And we're working on a few numbers, some new material for that. Okay, as a matter of fact, about 12 noon, Lance will be coming to pick me up so we can go back to the studio and finish some recording the numbers that we got started recording some tunes for this compilation record that some label in France wants us to do. So we're doing it. And we're also, Bob and Corey of Fistula, that's the band they're from. Famous band, Fistula. Doom metal, real doomy, love it. But anyways, back to Black Death. So, we have some songs worked out. Now, what we have on the compilation from France, we are a couple of classic Black Death songs and one of the new songs for the next record called The Red Dragon. Okay, the classics would be Streetwalker and Fear No Evil. Put a little bit of a different spin on the songs than what you are, than how they normally would play, you know. Anyhow, I think everyone will find it interesting, to say the least. See, Black Death is like a football team with me. Different lineups, the best lineup for at the moment. But I've got to say, the current lineup that I have with Captain Corey Binghamton and also with Mr. Captain Bob Branca, this has got to be the best lineup I play with so far, you know. And that's not knocking the other lads that I play with. It doesn't knock them at all. You know, they did their bit, but this bit that's going on, happening right here with this new music, you have to hear it for yourself. That's all I have to say. And Black Death will be a three-piece band. I've gotten used to that, you know. It's a lot of freedom, room to breathe, so to speak. It's been hard to find the right guitars, you know, to come in and fill my departed brother Vincent Lindsay's spot. And I'll tell you, we're coming up on his 3rd year anniversary of Vinny's death. Vinny was the guitar player in Black Death alongside myself from back in the days, back in the 88, 87, 88, you know, and then reunited again in the 21st century. So everything's going fine. Hopefully, we'll all get a chance to see each other. We'll get a chance to play for you, and you'll get a chance to sit there and listen. That's right, I said sit there and you just listen to the music that you love oh so well. That's right, I'm talking about Black Death. That's right, Black Death. There's nothing like Black Death. The music from Black Death, you know, Let that pour into your subconscious. Black death, black death, black death.
Well, there you go. That was Sicky Spacek from Black Death. Next up on the Heavy Metal Mixtape is Midnight Chaser with their song Lion's Choice.
Growing stronger, feeling day by day.
So that's Lion's Choice. It's the title track from Midnight Chaser's album, Lion's Choice. Came out in 2014. It's a pretty awesome album. Has a great UFO cover on there too.
Midnight Chaser, another band that we became really good friends with. Our first ever tour was called Warriors of the West, and we had brought out a band from Canada called Iron Kingdom. We'll do some episodes on this too. But Steve, one of the main guys from Midnight Chaser, lived in San Francisco. I believe he was originally from Pittsburgh. Don't quote me on that, but the band ended up moving to Pittsburgh, which was a bold move, but it actually worked out for them. They just relocated out there. And, at the time, living in the Bay Area, there was a big tech boom. The whole landscape and culture had changed. We think of the Bay Area as this booming punk rock and metal mecca. And it just wasn't. It just wasn't happening like that in the 2000 teens. And it had just turned into something else. And the cost of living was just fucking ridiculous. So these guys decided to pack up and head to Pittsburgh. And so on the tour, on the Curse of the Damned tour, on our headlining tour in 2015, we stayed with them, and they were finishing up their record, Lion's Choice. And we thought the title track was really good, and we easily put them on this comp. But they're amazing guys and an amazing band. We did also have them out for Frost and Fire 2, which was fucking killer. I believe it was 2, maybe 3, but I think it was 2. But, they were one of the first new wave of traditional heavy metal bands that we had heard about when we started the band, along with bands like Enforcer and High Spirits, who I think both declined being on this comp. That's the reason why they're not on there. But I will say I developed a very good friendship with Olaf from Enforcer and Chris from High Spirits over the years. So I think if we had another shot at it, we would work it out with those guys. But I digress. Those are the two bands that are missing from this that I think really, really, really should be represented. So go check out Enforcer and High Spirits and anything that they released around 2014, 2015, and you can see why they fit perfectly on this.
So Midnight Chaser, they had 2 releases on Heavy Artillery Records before this one, Lion's Choice, which was released digitally and then finally on CD and vinyl by Swords and Chains Records. So here's Mike from Swords and Chains Records.
I'm Mike, founder of Swords and Chains Records, founded in 2012. Since then, we have released a multitude of heavy metal bands, mainly focusing on the traditional metal and epic metal genres, on cassette tape and CD, and one split vinyl release we did with another label. And specifically, when we talk about Midnight Chaser, been a fan since their Heavy Artillery years, with the debut demo they did and the Rough and Tough album that was neglected heavily because the LP never actually came out. It's only CD version available for a short amount of time. And then when I found out they had a new album come out, it was only digital. And I was kind of annoyed by that because great band, needed physical release. And so I knew at that time I had to get out on CD. It took almost a year, and the help of Jarvis, convincing Steven and the band to hook up with me, get the CD out, and we forged a good relationship since then and done pretty well. The song, Lion's Choice, fantastic. It's the opening song on the album. It just hits you in the face. That guitar riff, the drums, it's just there. Perfect opening song for an album. It fits perfectly on this mixtape right after Black Death. And the song itself, just pure hard rockin', heavy metal, good time right there. Fantastic. Awesome band. Awesome dudes.
So Midnight Chaser with Lion's Choice, another kick-ass track number 2, that helps kick off side B of the Heavy Metal Mixtape. So that's it for this episode of the podcast and for the Heavy Metal Mixtape. You can listen to the entire tracks from this mixtape in the subscriber section on nightdemon.net. More info about the bands in the bonus section. There's also a very limited number of these mixtapes available in the subscribers only store. A very small number of them. Grab one while you can. Until next time, this is Nesbitt signing off.
Rolling down the highway through the dead of night, road racing.
Thanks for listening to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. Head over to nightdemon.net, click on the subscriber tab, and sign up to access exclusive weekly bonus content. If you would like to donate to support the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast, you can do so through PayPal at paypal.me/nightdemonmetal. Additionally, if you have not already done so, please subscribe, like, rate, and review the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts.
All hail, Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. This is Dusty Squires chiming in to tell you about my brand new signature sticks from the London Drumstick Company. I've dreamt of having my very own drumsticks ever since I was a wee lad, and LDC made that a possibility for me. Founded in 2016 in London, England, the birthplace of heavy metal, the London Drumstick Company has trailblazed a path through the music industry and taken the drummer world by storm. When I met them for the first time, they knew their product was going to withstand the beatings of a Night Demon show. They took the time to work with me on getting everything just right. The balance and weight of my sticks are the same no matter what, and the durability is bar none the best I've ever had. I know my sticks will last through the set night after night. I'm truly honored to work with a company that caters to their players the way LDC does. Their innovation and attention to detail is what separates them from the rest of the stick makers out there. Their custom stick sleeves are unbelievable and really make the entire presentation complete. Wait until you see the design they came up with for me. It blew my mind and was a surprise to say the least. They have all kinds of amazing swag, including hoodies, t-shirts, drummer shorts, drum keys, stick bags, towels, face masks, practice pads, and much, much more. Even if you're not a drummer, you can be a part of Demon history and order my brand new signature sticks direct from their website. How cool is that? And to top it off, the London Drumstick Company are giving an exclusive offer to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. Go to londondrumsticks.co.uk and receive a 15% store-wide discount using promo code DEMONSTICKS. All capital letters, no spaces, Demon Sticks. DEMONSTICKS. I can't thank everyone there enough for the opportunity to be a part of their family and for them trusting me with their amazing products. See you metal maniacs on the road very soon. And yes, the wood chips will be flying.
Greetings, boils and ghouls. This is your comrade, the Crypt Keeper here, reporting dead from the sanctuary of the strange. Tonight's macabre myth is a fright-filled feature, one overflowing with monsters, madness, and magic.
Visit our website at monstersmadnessandmagic.com to stay up to date on all the dark dealings within the sanctuary of the strange. Enjoy the show.
Hey Metalheads, I'm Mark and I host the Metal Forge. Let me tell you about the show. The Metal Forge features the best underground metal from all over the world. We spend every week with a different artist with interviews, in-depth conversations, and most of all, the music. We also feature audience interactivity where you can submit your questions to the upcoming guests. New episodes are out every Friday at noon Eastern Time at metalforgeradio.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking Podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
Okay, metalheads, you've been complaining that there has not been a channel
that plays all of the heavy metal videos from past, present, and future for years and years at this point. Well, that time is over. Heavy Metal Television is back. HeavyMetalTelevision.net is the website. Go there. You can see videos playing 24/7, 365, all the time, all the best from the old school, the new school, and everything in between. Check it out, HeavyMetalTelevision.net. It is where the metal is.